Language could be defined as a method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting of the use of words in a structured and conventional way. Every statement could have an implied or literal meaning. Also, a statement can be true or false, ambiguous, vague, etc., etc. This brings us to the purpose of this lecture, to understand the various kinds of statements. Ambiguity. A statement is said to be ambiguous if it has more than one reference or meaning. There are three types of ambiguity, namely lexical ambiguity, referential ambiguity, syntactic ambiguity. Lexical ambiguity could be a single word or name with more than one meaning. Example, the stool is in the garden. Stool here could mean feces or a chair. Referential ambiguity arises when the context does not make it clear what pronoun is referring to. Example, the boy told his father the truth and he was very upset. We are not clear if the boy was upset or his father was. Syntactic ambiguity occurs when there is more than one way to interpret the grammatical structure of an expression. Example, I am renting the new apartment. You could be renting it as a landlord or as a tenant. Vagueness. A statement is said to be vague if it has an imprecise boundary. Example, the girl is fair. The fair statement is vague because we don't know how fair the girl is. Is she fairer than her mother? There is no standard to show how fair she is. Another example, I will be back soon. The second statement is vague because it is imprecise and indefinite. That is to say, soon could mean in 2 days or in 2 hours. Uses and mention. Ambiguity may arise when a distinction is not made between the use and the mention of a word or phrase. To see this, notice that Tom said, I was angry. Tom said, I was angry express two very different things, even though the words are the same. This occurs because the phrase, I was angry, is being used in the first case and mentioned in the second. Notice that I sometimes use italics, sometimes as emphasis, and sometimes indicates that a word or phrase is being mentioned, which I do when I do not suspect that confusion will arise. When no emphasis is used, either quotes or italics or some other kind of emphasis, the meaning becomes unclear. Definition. Definitions explain and clarify a meaning. There are two parts to a definition: the definitum, the term being defined, and the definins, words that defined the definitum. Types of definition. Reportive. It reports the existing meaning of a term. It's mostly definition found in dictionaries. Example, prime number is any integer greater than 1 and divisible by 1 in itself. Stipulative definition. It is used to assign a new meaning to a term, whether or not the term has an existing meaning. Example, to love someone is to be willing to die for that person. Consistency and inconsistency. A set of statements are consistent only when it is logically possible for all of them to be true in the same situation. Example, I study effectively. I do well academically. John is vegan. He eats vegetables. These are consistent statements because studying effectively and doing well academically are consistent. Likewise, example 2. Inconsistency in statements are also called contraries. Example, a lion is a carnivore. It eats grass. He's an atheist. He believes in God. From the examples given above, a lion is a carnivore and carnivores eat only meat. Hence, it is logically impossible. An atheist is one who does not believe in God. Hence, the statements are not consistent. An implication. An implication is the conclusion that can be drawn from an idea or something, although it is not stated clearly and in detail. It is what we think of next after we have drawn our conclusion. To agree or disagree with the conclusion, you need to know the literal meaning and implication. I love books literally means that the person likes to read, but it also implies that the person likes only the color, shape, or the author of the book, not necessarily reading it. Equivalent. Equivalent statements are statements written differently but hold the same logical equivalent. If two statements are X and Y, then they are logically equivalent if X implies Y. Not all clowns are funny is to X. Some clowns are not funny is to Y. If I say not all clowns are funny, it would not make a different meaning. When I say some clowns are not funny, hence the two statements are logically equivalent. Necessary truth and falsehood. Truths are facts about the way that the world is, not the statements we make about the world or our thoughts about it. Necessary truth is something that cannot be false. It is something that could not have failed to be true, the denial of which would lead to a logical contradiction. The sky is either blue or not blue. 2 + 2 = 4. All wives are married women. In no possible worlds could these be false. Necessary falsehood is something that cannot be true. It is a proposition false in all possible worlds. 7 + 7 = 20. All wives are unmarried. All bachelors are married. In no possible worlds could this be true. Contingent truth and contingent falsehood. Contingent truth is a true proposition in the actual world that could have been false. Logically, could have been different in another world. Examples: human beings have evolved from other forms of life. She is 7 foot tall. He is a good footballer. It could have been the case that humans didn't evolve from other forms of life. It could have been the case that she is 8 feet tall. It could have been the case that he is a bad footballer. Contingent false. Contingent false is a false proposition in the actual world that could have been true. Logically could have been different in another world. Examples: the man is pregnant. The girl impregnated her. From these two examples above, a man cannot be pregnant, but there could be the case where the man is a transgender. Also, the girl could be a transgender. In summary, as we engage in critical thinking, we should be aware of the various kinds of statements in order to communicate fluently with others. This slide was designed and presented by Group 3 FAMD members. Thank you.